Welcome to another deep dive where we're going to be exploring.
Oh, this is going to be a good one.
Yeah, this is going to be fun. We're going to be exploring the world of fintech, sustainability, and artificial intelligence.
All the buzzwords.
All the buzzwords, all in one. And we've got some great sources to dig into. I've got some
Mhm.
academic papers. We've got survey-based studies, and even a glimpse into how AI chatbots are already changing things up in financial services.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really fascinating how these fields, fintech, sustainability, AI, they used to be kind of separate silos and now they're all converging.
Yeah.
And it's not just about, flashy apps and speed anymore. It's becoming this tool for positive change, particularly when it comes to sustainability and financial inclusion.
Yeah, and that was something that I really noticed when I was reading that article from the International Journal of Accounting and Information Management.
Oh, yeah, that was a good one.
It dives into this, but it also points out this knowledge gap that seems to be out there. It seems like companies are really struggling with actually putting these sustainable practices into their digital finance systems.
Yeah, it's kind of like they love the idea,
Yeah.
but the how-to is still a bit fuzzy.
Right. Like they get the concept,
Yeah.
but they don't know how to implement it.
Totally. And, it's one thing to talk the talk, but walking the walk is where it gets tricky.
Yeah.
And this article really emphasizes the need for solid evidence. Like, we need to show companies that these sustainable practices actually lead to long-term benefits.
Right. Because without that, how are you going to convince them to make significant investments and changes?
Exactly. It's got to be more than just a feel-good initiative.
Right.
It's got to make business sense.
So what specific challenges do you think are holding these companies back from really, making these changes?
I think a big one is the lack of comprehensive frameworks. Like, how do you actually integrate sustainability into existing financial processes?
Right.
Think about it. How do you even measure the environmental impact of a financial product?
Yeah.
Or how do you define sustainable in a way that applies across different industries and financial systems?
Yeah, that's definitely not a simple equation.
It's a multifaceted challenge.
Uh,
And then you've got the human element,
Right.
the change management, the cultural shifts.
Yeah.
To implement sustainable practices, you need buy-in from everyone, from the CEO down to individual employees.
Right.
You might even need to change the company's core values and how they measure success.
Yeah, it's like trying to turn a giant ship.
Totally.
It takes so much time and effort and coordination.
The article even talks about bringing together experts from different fields,
Oh, wow.
like finance, technology, environmental science, because it's not a problem any one discipline can solve on its own.
Right. Yeah, it's definitely a multidisciplinary problem.
very bad.
And that's where I think AI comes in, right?
Yeah, AI is like the superhero in this story. The article specifically calls out AI-enabled fintech as a huge opportunity. So how does it actually bridge that gap between intention and action?
Yeah.
AI is basically a superpowered analyst. It can sift through mountains of data, both financial and financial, to spot patterns and trends that humans might miss.
Oh, wow.
So imagine using AI to analyze a company's supply chain
Okay.
and pinpoint areas where they can reduce their environmental impact, or maybe even predict which sustainable investments will yield the highest returns.
So it's not just about crunching numbers.
No.
It's about actually using AI to uncover insights that can drive better decision-making.
Exactly. You're getting it.
Okay.
Take JP Chase, for example. They're already using AI algorithms to manage risk in real time.
Wow.
They analyze market data, predict fluctuations, and make faster, more informed decisions, which ultimately contributes to financial stability.
Wow. So AI is already out there making a difference.
Oh, yeah. It's happening.
What about other companies? Are they all kind of jumping on this AI bandwagon?
Well, it's still early days,
Yeah.
but there are some exciting initiatives underway. Microsoft, for instance, is focusing on developing ethical AI frameworks,
Oh.
making sure their algorithms are fair and transparent.
Why is that so important, especially when we're talking about finance?
Well, think about it. Financial decisions have a huge impact on people's lives. Loan approvals, credit scores, investment recommendations. These things can make or break someone's financial future.
Yeah.
So if the AI systems making these decisions are biased or opaque, it could have serious consequences.
So ethical AI isn't just a nice to have.
No.
It's essential for responsible innovation in the financial sector.
Absolutely. And speaking of ethical AI, there's a fascinating study from big data and cognitive computing that I think we should dive into next.
Right.
It looks specifically at AI's impact on financial inclusion, something I think you'll find quite interesting.
Yeah, that sounds like a great place to pick back up when we come back.
Okay.
So until then, keep those neurons firing.
Stay curious.
We'll be back with more insights in just a bit.
Okay, so this study from Big Data and Cognitive Computing, it surveyed.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, it surveyed 675 users in China about their experiences with AI-powered financial inclusion services.
Okay, so we're talking about like access to loans, affordable financial products, things that maybe certain people have a harder time getting.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly. And one of the key findings was this link between the perceived fairness of the AI algorithms and user satisfaction.
Oh, interesting. So if people felt like the AI was treating them fairly, they were happier with the service.
Yeah, happier and also more likely to recommend it to others.
That makes sense. I mean, trust is huge when it comes to anything financial,
Totally. No one wants to feel like they're being taken advantage of.
especially by an algorithm.
Especially by an algorithm, right? And that's why the study's focus on algorithmic fairness is so important. They found that transparency, accountability, and a sense of legitimacy were strong predictors of perceived fairness.
Okay, so it sounds like people need to understand how the AI is making decisions.
Yeah,
And they need to feel like those decisions are justified.
exactly. It can't just be a black box making decisions behind the scenes.
Right, right. So do you think it's possible to make these AI systems more explainable to users?
It's definitely a challenge, but researchers are working on techniques to make AI more transparent and interpretable.
Oh, cool.
The goal is to be able to show users in a way they can understand how the AI arrived at a particular decision.
Yeah, that would definitely go a long way in building trust.
Absolutely. And it's not just about fairness for individual users either. Ethical AI practices are crucial for the long-term success of any financial inclusion initiatives.
How so?
Well, if people don't trust the technology, they're not going to use it.
Right.
And if they don't use it, then the whole point of expanding financial inclusion is lost.
So responsible AI is not just ethically sound, it's good for business.
Exactly. It's a win-win.
Yeah.
Now, shifting gears a bit, remember those AI chatbots we were talking about earlier?
Yeah, the virtual financial assistants.
Yeah, exactly.
They're popping up everywhere.
Right.
Are they legit, though? Can they really give sound financial advice?
That's the million-dollar question.
Right.
AI chatbots are definitely changing the game when it comes to customer service and even marketing in finance. Think about it. You can now get instant personalized financial guidance and even complete transactions through a conversational interface.
This is like having a financial expert available 24/7.
Yeah. No more waiting on hold or scheduling appointments.
Here's for convenience.
And that convenience is a big draw for a lot of people. But it's not just about convenience.
Right.
These chatbots can also gather valuable data on customer behavior and preferences.
Oh, so they're learning about you as you interact with them.
Yes, and that allows them to provide increasingly personalized recommendations and solutions. Imagine a chatbot that remembers your financial goals and risk tolerance and then tailors its advice accordingly.
Okay, that's pretty impressive. But what about the risk of these chatbots giving bad advice or even being manipulated to take advantage of people?
Those are valid concerns. Ensuring the accuracy and reliability of AI-driven responses is a major challenge for developers. You definitely don't want a chatbot steering someone toward a risky investment or making decisions that aren't in their best interest.
It's a lot of responsibility to put on a chatbot.
It is. And that's why the human element is still so important.
Yeah.
Even in the age of AI, these chatbots are tools. And like any tool, they can be used for or for bad.
So it all comes back to responsible development and deployment.
Yeah.
Making sure these AI systems are designed and used in a way that benefits users.
Exactly. Now, speaking of AI and user adoption, there's this interesting study from PLOS One that looked at the generational divide in adopting robo-advisors.
Oh, yeah. Robo-advisors. Those are the platforms that provide like automated financial planning and investment advice, right?
That's right. And as AI gets more sophisticated, these robo-advisors are becoming more and more popular.
Okay. But not everyone's jumping on board, right?
Right. This study found that different generations approach robo-advisors in very different ways. For example, Gen Z and millennials, who are super comfortable with technology, they tend to prioritize ease of use.
So if it's easy to use and the process is seamless, they're more likely to give it a try.
Exactly. But for Gen X and older folks, it's a different story. They're less concerned with bells and whistles and more focused on usefulness.
They want to know if it's actually going to help them.
Yeah. They want to see the value before they'll trust an algorithm with their money.
Makes sense.
Oh.
I think there's probably a trust factor, too.
Oh, definitely. Older generations might be more hesitant to trust an algorithm with something as important as their finances.
Especially when they're used to dealing with human financial advisors.
Right. They might not be ready to replace that human element with an AI-driven platform.
So this generational divide creates some interesting challenges for the fintech industry.
Yeah, if companies want to see wider adoption of robo-advisors, they need to tailor their services to different generations.
Right? So it's all about understanding the needs and concerns of each generation.
Absolutely. A one-size-fits-all approach won't work.
So for younger generations, it's about creating a seamless and engaging user experience.
Yeah.
But for older generations, it's about building trust, emphasizing the benefits, and explaining how the technology actually works.
You got it. It's about meeting people where they are,
Right.
understanding their needs, and providing solutions that address those needs.
So responsible AI development is a key theme here. It's come up in our discussion of sustainability,
Mm-hmm.
financial inclusion, and now robo-advisors. But what about the bigger picture? What about the risks and regulations surrounding fintech as a whole?
That's a great point. And the article, Trends in Fintech Research and Practice, really dives into that topic.
Perfect. So for our listener, why should they care about these risks? What's the big deal?
Well, our financial systems are becoming incredibly complex and interconnected. A single vulnerability in a fintech platform could have ripple effects throughout the entire system.
Oh, wow. So it's not just about individual users being infected.
No, it's about the potential for systemic risk.
So we need regulations to keep things in check.
Absolutely. Regulations create a level playing field, protect consumers, and ensure the stability of the entire financial system.
But don't regulations sometimes stifle innovation?
They can. It's a balancing act.
Okay.
We need regulations that are flexible enough to adapt to rapid technological change, but also strong enough to provide meaningful safeguards.
So who's responsible for developing these regulations?
It's a collaborative effort involving policymakers, regulators, industry experts, and even consumers.
Wow. So we all have a role to play.
We do. The future of fintech is being shaped by all of us.
That's a great point. This deep dive has been packed with insights.
It has.
From sustainable finance to AI chatbots, from algorithmic fairness to the regulatory landscape of fintech, it's clear that we're in the midst of a technological revolution that's changing the financial world as we know it.
It's an exciting time, but also a time to proceed with caution. As we embrace these technologies, we need to do so responsibly, making sure they benefit society as a whole and don't exacerbate existing inequalities.
That's really important. We've seen both the promise and the potential pitfalls of AI in finance.
We have.
But ultimately, the future of fintech is in our hands.
It is. It's up to all of us to stay informed and engage in these conversations and advocate for a future where technology is used to create a more just and sustainable world.
And on that note, we've reached the end of our deep dive.
Yeah.
So we've talked about, the risks and the regulations surrounding fintech, but have there been specific instances where things have actually gone wrong?
Oh, yeah. Unfortunately, there have been some high-profile cases that really serve as cautionary tales.
Okay.
One that comes to mind is the Australian RoboDebt scandal.
Okay.
It involved this automated debt recovery system
Oh, wow.
that ended up really unfairly impacting a lot of vulnerable people.
What happened there?
So basically, the system was designed to identify and recover overpayments of welfare benefits.
Oh.
But it relied on these flawed algorithms and inaccurate data matching. Oh, no.
And it led to thousands of people being wrongly accused of owing money.
So the technology was implemented without any real consideration for, the consequences.
Exactly. And it really highlights the dangers of just blindly trusting algorithms.
Yeah.
Without, human intervention or checks and balances.
Right, right. And then another example that I think really emphasizes this need for stronger regulatory oversight is the Wirecard accounting scandal.
Oh, yeah, that one was huge.
Yeah, it really sent shockwaves through the financial world. What were some of the key takeaways from that?
Well, Wirecard was this German payment processing company
Okay.
that collapsed in 2020 after billions of euros in assets just vanished.
Wow.
And the scandal exposed all these accounting irregularities and fraudulent activities, raising questions about, how adequate the regulations are in the fintech space.
So it's a reminder that even with all this innovation, even with all this disruption, we can't forget about basic financial transparency and accountability. Absolutely. Those principles are still crucial.
Yeah. So going forward, what are some steps that we can take to ensure that AI is used responsibly and ethically in the financial sector?
Well, I think transparency and explainability are key.
Okay.
Users have a right to understand how decisions are being made that affect their financial lives.
Right. We got to lift the veil on that AI black box.
Exactly. And we also need to address bias in the algorithms.
Okay.
Because if these systems are trained on biased data, they'll just perpetuate existing inequalities.
Right. We don't want AI to become a tool for discrimination.
Absolutely. It needs to promote fairness and inclusivity in finance.
So it sounds like a lot of this comes down to really being mindful about the data that's being used.
It does. And it's also about constantly monitoring for unintended
It's
consequences.
an ongoing process.
Always evolving. And it's not just about the tech itself.
Okay.
It's about education and awareness, too.
Mm-hmm.
Policymakers, regulators, industry leaders, even everyday consumers need to understand AI and its implications for finance.
So it's about creating a culture of responsible AI development.
Exactly. A culture where ethics are a priority and we're always learning and adapting.
This has been a really fascinating deep dive.
It has.
We've covered so much ground,
We have.
from sustainable finance to AI chatbots,
Mhm.
from algorithmic fairness to the future of regulations.
Wow, fascinating topics.
Yeah, it's clear that we're in the middle of a technological revolution,
Definitely. A revolution that's reshaping finance as we know it.
and the future of fintech is really in our hands.
It is. It's up to all of us to make sure AI is a force for good.
As AI becomes more and more integrated into our lives,
Mm.
we need to stay informed, we need to stay engaged, and we need to advocate for a future where technology makes the world a better place.
Couldn't agree more.
So that wraps up this episode of The Deep Dive.
Until next time.
Be sure to check out the sources we mentioned. Do your own research and keep those brain gears turning.